Hello and welcome. As we're starting today, we're going to go in a little bit of a different sequence today. But as we're starting, one thing I wanted to invite you to do is to let yourself notice your own body and notice what kind of attention would you most like today? Because a lot of us don't realize that we can actually kind of order up the kind of attention we'd like. We can be opening up to receiving so that you might want caring. You might want somebody to be tender with you. You might somebody to really give you attention before they talk about themselves. Uh, so I'd like you to just notice what kind of attention would you like, and would you be willing to receive that? So rather than just, waiting for whatever arrives, you can be proactive in, well, I'd really like someone to focus on just how I am and just be giving me their full attention. And so if you're open for that and you're ready for that, just notice how that shifts your own sort of internal compass. So I notice when I'm kind of waiting for somebody to give me attention, that I'm more, I think I feel more collapsed. I kind of go into more of a, oh, if it's not too much trouble, could you please? I kind of get into more of a begging kind of role. Whereas, if I don't need any attention, I can do it myself. I get a little bit more rigid, and I can feel it in my jaw. But if I'm open to receiving the kind of attention that I really want, how I start feeling is more fluid. I can already just feel more movement in me, and more of an openness rather than a closeness. And so I want to invite you to see what in your own body could be more open. Just to ask yourself that. So what in my body, right? So it might be your belly. You might notice that you have a little bit of tension in your belly. Or like I was just noticing that my feet were not on the ground. So I'm just going to take a moment here to put my feet on the ground so that my feet are open to receiving. So even just a little shift in your own internal openness can kind of open, or unlock the kink in the hose from the universe to move towards you. So I'd like to invite you to do that. And anytime you're giving attention to yourself today, I'd like you to notice what could be, what's more closed right now that could be open, and letting that just be part of your loop. So I wanted to play today. I just realized that one of our integrity cards, fits perfectly with loop of awareness. And so I'd love for you to take a look at this card and just be noticing. So giving your attention to it and then bringing your attention back to you, and notice how your body responds to looking at this particular card. And then look at it again and letting yourself kind of go into it and noticing, like, I was always like, what's that at the top of the card? And then I realized, oh, I believe that's an ear. So listening. And then I come back to me, and I was realizing that my ears were feeling a little bit of tightness today. So I'm going to just wiggle my head a little bit. And then I'm giving attention. I'm doing loop of awareness with the card. And then I'm noticing those wonderful little critters at the bottom of the card, definitely giving full attention my way. And then receiving that kind of intense curiosity. How do I receive that? And what wants to open that may be a little bit closed? So as you're looking at this, I want to read first the sentence and then the question. I physically turn toward others with open posture and breath so I can sense how my communications are being received. So I'll read that once more. I physically turn toward others with open posture and breath so I can sense how my communications are being received. what a wonderful intention all of itself. Oh, I can really give attention to how I am being received rather than just delivering my communication, whatever that, I think that ought to be. Now here's the question. Notice how your body receives this question. In what ways can I give active awareness to how my communications are landing with others? In what ways can I give active awareness to how my communications are landing with others? All right, beautiful. So let's come on back to us in the group here. I just realized again, as I was looking at that card, it was the one that I picked out for us for today, that the most effective and the easiest way to check how I'm being received is loop of awareness. It's the most practical use of loop of awareness. I just recently was in an interaction with someone where they were monologuing at me. No, I'm sure you've had that experience. And I almost was like, going to lift a flag over here, like me, hello, I'm here too. So the sense of something that it becomes a dialogue is really served by us noticing how is my communication being received. And all I need to do is just give my attention over there. And I can do that with practice. I can be speaking and looping. So that's the challenge that I want to give to you. I'm sure that you've experimented with this, but to actually focus on, I can speak and notice. So I can notice how you're receiving, and I can also notice with my body. So it doesn't all have to come while I'm looking at you. If I come back to me, I might notice, oh, my breathing just slowed down, or oh, I just got contracted in my diaphragm, or oh, I just had a little freeze. Oh, something probably happened over there that I didn't catch, but my body did. And so I can say, oh, I'm just going to pause for a second because I'm not sure if that last thing I said actually landed. So let me just see how is this for you? So I'm actually inquiring about, or I'll say, oh, I just, it looks like we just sort of lost connection there. Or I'm noticing that I feel like I'm just talking at you. And so I'm going to just pause for a moment and see how's it going on your side. So that the whole sense of tossing. So loop of awareness is an energetic toss. So I'm saying something, but then I'm following it with my awareness and going, how did that land? So I want to invite you to explore, get curious about what are the signals? What are the signals that let you know, okay, yeah, that one landed. So if a couple of those for me are, I get a bigger breath. And I also notice that the other person is breathing. So there's a sense also of an out breath that arises. And that's one thing that lets me know. Or I'll notice there'll be something in the face, like there'll be a little question there. And so I'll pause and go, oh, did you have a question? Or what just happened there? So I'm using what we call a flag move to just notice something happened and I noticed it. And I want you to know that I noticed it and I'm curious about what happened. And then that, even if the person says, oh, nothing, just the sense of I'm curious and I'm noticing you and I'm letting you know that I noticed, establishes even more of a weave of our connection. So it doesn't have to be like what just happened and the person gives you an answer. It's really you're acknowledging we're in this together and what you say influences me. Or I might just notice, oh, I just felt myself just had a little wave of sadness. Oh, and I just wanted to share that. And almost always, the person go, oh yeah, I just was remembering that my, when you were talking about that, I remembered my dog dying and I just felt this wave of sadness. And that connection um, really creates an exquisite contact, a sense of we are here together. I don't have to know everything, but we are here together, and I'm really honoring your contribution as well as mine. So the signals, what you might notice first is a lack of contact. Like something just happened there and I just felt like I lost you. What happened? I'm just curious about that. But I also would love for you to get curious about what lets you know that you're connecting. So for me, almost always it's an opening in the other person. There'll be just some kind of an opening. So there'll be a relaxation in their face, or there'll be more of an open breath, or there'll be a shift in their body that's more toward openness. And I go, yeah, I got it. Or they'll sometimes, if I'm really on it, the person will nod, like I'm talking about, particularly I'm talking about something that we're sharing, that we're dialoguing about. I know I've got it. Or they'll say, exactly. That's when I know I've really rung the bell. Like I go, exactly. And there's this little celebration, like I'm resonating. And so that's what I'm really aiming for in my communications, is that I'm weaving, I'm adding mine. I'm not just going, how is it for you? But if I don't come back over here, if I'm not doing loop of awareness with me, I'm going to tend to communicate more unconsciously. I'm going to be communicating, with little facial things and little things that are going on with me. But if I'm giving attention to that, I can notice and communicate that. And that openness to here's what's really going on, here's what's real, for me creates that kind of alignment and resonance that really amplifies, I think, the communication for both of us. I get smarter. I think whoever I'm communicating with gets smarter in the way that we're able to make connections. Because for me, taking responsibility and getting smarter are really all about making connections. This happened and then this happened. I felt this and then I did this and then you did that. Oh, and when I connect that, I'm actually weaving more of us exploring together, enjoying the communication. No matter who's saying it, we get nourished by the communication because we're connecting. So the easiest way for me, especially like if I'm if I'm doing any kind of a presentation or I'm in a meeting, the best way to know how I'm doing is to do loop of awareness. I've had countless times where I went, oh, looks like I just lost you. So what just happened? Or is it time for a break? Or, because I'll say, something just happened. And then I get curious about that. And then that opens the invitation for somebody to say, yeah, we really need a break now. Or I lost you about 3 sentences back. So what often people do when they lose the other person is kind of try to fill it in, like like just to fill up the, like put your finger in the dike so that another, but you're not really actually acknowledging, oh, something happened. Let's just take a moment to get curious. And my experience with that is that people feel really honored. They're like, oh, you noticed, rather than, because I've had our communication habits. Often I was going back to childhood, and I grew up where kids are not supposed to speak. Just listening to the adults go on, and I had a question about what's it, but I couldn't say anything. And so that sense of suppressing your own curiosity and your own wanting to contribute often goes back to old patterns that you can interrupt, in your current life in favor of having a real communication. And over and over again, whenever I've said, "Oh, wait a minute, I just lost you there," when I come to that, the person always feels more like, oh, thank you. And right away, we're reconnected. And if there's something else that wants to be communicated, I've indicated that I'm available. I'm open to feedback. And so for me, rather than waiting until, because the feedback, if something is off, that's not going to get repaired by you're just leaping over it and trying to fill it in, and dumping more stuff into it. It gets acknowledged by going, oh, something just happened. Ah, and then that feedback allows it to get handled when it's just a little thing rather than everybody exiting the room, or someone coming back later and said, I really didn't like what she said, she was really mean, and starting a whole drama. So that's what I wanted to encourage you to look at this week. Is the primary value for me of loop of awareness is that it's an effective way of getting feedback about what's actually going on. And I really value that. And I was just noticing, our card, which is in the conscious communication. So I felt very happy about sort of putting that together today. So let yourself notice, like, what's one place in you that's really easy for you to notice, whether you're still in connection or whether something got dropped. Yeah. So for me now, it almost always is breath, because that's easy for me to notice when I'm going back and forth. But if you haven't practiced that, one can be a little bit more difficult. So what I also notice is something that just doesn't quite match. There'll be something in the other person that I'm talking, and I notice something just sort of doesn't quite match. Like their eyes might go off, or there's a little droop that starts happening. It's usually pretty subtle. But then if I realize, if I bring my attention back over to me and go, oh, what just happened in me? I realize, oh, I just got scared. So, and scared is really just a disconnect in that case. And I go, oh, I just got scared. So, it seemed like something just happened. And then my availability, when I say that, the other person feels more safe to say, yeah, I didn't, that 2 sentences ago, you said something, I just didn't even quite get it. And so then I can reconnect rather than trying to build something when there's a chasm already. So I felt excited about that and wanted to share that with you. And then for our Presence Connect play today, I wanted to, this is cool. So presence is notice you, notice breath and sensations, and notice the other. So that's basically what I've just been talking about, is that in loop of awareness, which creates presence, but then also a deep connection. If I'm noticing my breath and my body sensations, those are pretty reliable. And if I'm noticing breath and body sensations for you, for the other, and then noticing mine, just even noticing that sort of picks up the drop stitch again, and we're back woven together. So I can do that with my awareness. I can add to it my speaking about what I'm noticing. So breath and body sensations, and then noticing breath and body sensations over here. And your curiosity about that is incredibly powerful just in itself. So that's for presence. And what have we got for connect? So connect are the fear melters. So we don't realize that our fear melters are a very easy and effective way to reconnect, first with myself and then with others. And so as you're doing oozing, let's create a little oozing through your body. In a way, my favorite is seaweed in water, seaweed in the ocean, that oozing, which allows the flowing through. And notice if there's any place in you it's a little clunky, chunky rather than oozy. And notice what happens to your sense of connection as you're oozing. And then letting yourself, you could add to, you could keep doing using, or you could shift to letting yourself root. So we often think of rooting must come through our feet, but imagine if rooting can come through your hands, that your hands can open to connecting to around you, connecting through you, through your hands. So rooting is really allowing the nourishment to come all the way through. It's like when you're filling up, and like when I feed my orchids, when they are soaking up the water, that is also another kind of rooting. And so notice how rooting allows you to feel connected, and then letting yourself in wiggling. So I think a lot of people consider wiggling is the easiest way to reconnect with yourself and with others. And so when I'm stuck in a conversation, like, if you get into a hassle with somebody, that freeze is almost invisible to most of us, like the kind of little uh-oh. And if you add a little wiggle to that, like even just a little wiggle in your chin or a little wiggle in your shoulders. I like to wiggle my hips, especially if I'm sitting. So I'm just wiggling from one sits bone to the other and letting that reverberate up through me. And then notice how that not only connects with you, but gives you a sense of, like, even as I'm wiggling, I'm noticing you more. So that we think of fear melters as a way to presence ourselves, but it's also a very effective way to connect with you and with others. And then love scoops, what happens to most of us through the day is that we get more contracted, get more into ourselves. And just like that. And we forget that our love scoops allow us to claim our personal space. So your personal space is your reach space. It's your wingspan. So let yourself, like, this is my space and I'm going to claim it. And this is my space and I'm going to claim it. Oh, that felt really good just doing that. And so reach a little bit so that you're going beyond your, like, I'm contained in my own little bubble, reaching out and going, oh, yes, I can enjoy this space and I can connect with others all the way through this space. And I can love scoop anywhere in me that's wanting more connection. And notice after doing those, excuse me, after doing those, your connection with you. So just notice after all of this, but particularly doing the fear melters, how connected you feel. And then let me take a look at play. Okay, yeah, play is exaggerate your gestures and expressions. So I'm going to so just exaggerate what's going on for you right now. Anything that you notice, oh yeah, I love that. Oh, I love that. And I notice that some of you are adding in sound. And so when you do that, when you exaggerate, that's really the essence of play. You're taking something further in a direction than seeing what wants to happen. And that openness to where it wants to go, I think, is so much a part of our ability to enter into play, enter into the unknown. So that's our play for today. I so appreciate you joining with me in the middle of summer when you could be doing so many other things. And I love having our connection at the beginning of the week. So thank you for joining me. And yes, yeah, yum, 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 yum. And I look forward to seeing you next time. And please go ahead and continue conversations. And thank you. Mwah. Love you. Bye.